Let me begin by reminding you, being chosen does not exempt you from the fight. It guarantees it. When you are chosen by God, you are marked. You are not invisible. The light in you exposes the darkness in others. Your assignment irritates their insecurity. Your clarity threatens their confusion. And your confidence in God confronts their fear of purpose. They're plotting to throw you off. Yes, they're whispering behind closed doors. They're strategizing how to discredit you. They're questioning your worth, your motives, your calling. But hear me. Plotting does not equal power. Just because they're scheming doesn't mean they're succeeding. Being chosen does not exempt you from conflict. In fact, it invites it. When you are marked by God for a specific assignment, you carry a light that darkness cannot ignore. You carry a sound that disrupts the atmosphere around you. People can sense when someone is carrying purpose, even if they can't define it. And often what they do not understand, they fear. What they cannot control, they resist. And what they are not a part of, they try to destroy. Divine selection is a declaration in the spiritual realm. It is a statement that you have been identified as an agent of change, a vessel for impact, a leader in a generation. And with that declaration comes a ripple through the unseen world. Heaven affirms it. Hell notices it. And humanity responds to it. Some with celebration, but many with confusion, envy, or hostility. Because when you are chosen, you are not just walking in favor, you are walking in friction. And that friction is not always from strangers. It often comes from those closest to you. From family who think they know your limits. From friends who are threatened by your growth. From leaders who can't control your calling. From peers who see your rise as a threat to their comfort. To be chosen is to carry weight. It's a spiritual responsibility, not a social trophy. It's not about spotlight or applause. It's about obedience and sacrifice. God never chooses based on popularity. He chooses based on purpose. And when purpose is revealed, pressure follows. Because your life is no longer yours, you don't get to blend in, you don't get to hide, you don't get to settle. The call demands exposure. The call demands development. The call demands movement. And all movement creates friction. The weight of your calling will provoke resistance. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are finally doing something right. Your movement awakens what others tried to keep dormant. Your clarity confronts their complacency. Your boldness exposes their hesitation. When you begin to step fully into who God created you to be, you become a mirror that reflects what others have buried or ignored in themselves. And not everyone is ready to face that reflection. So instead of celebrating your awakening, they critique it. Instead of covering you in prayer, they cover you in rumors. Instead of pushing you forward, they try to pull you down. And it hurts, not because you didn't expect resistance, but because you didn't expect it to come from the ones you loved, the ones you served, the ones you sacrificed for. But this is the pattern of the chosen. Joseph was chosen, and his brothers threw him in a pit. David was chosen, and Saul tried to kill him. Jesus was chosen, and he was betrayed with a kiss. Being chosen by God rarely makes you accepted by people. In fact, the more heavenly your assignment, the more earthly your rejection. Because your life becomes disruptive. You start walking with vision that others can't see. You start speaking with authority they don't understand. You start dreaming with dimensions that seem ridiculous to the natural mind. And when people can't understand your assignment, they assume it's arrogance. They assume it's ambition. They assume it's delusion. But they don't realize it's obedience. You didn't ask to be chosen. You didn't raise your hand and say, "Pick me." God in His sovereignty selected you. And when He selected you, He began to set you apart, and that separation creates discomfort. People won't know how to categorize you. You don't fit their labels. You break their boxes. You challenge their assumptions. And anything that challenges the status quo will always face conflict. So the question is not whether conflict will come, it's whether you'll stand in the midst of it. Will you remain faithful when misunderstood? Will you keep building when others tear you down? Will you keep trusting when doors close, when people walk away, when rumors fly? Being chosen requires endurance. It requires the ability to move with God even when the crowd walks the other way. It means learning to walk through rejection without becoming bitter. It means learning to carry the weight of your assignment without demanding everyone else understand it. You were not chosen for comfort. You were chosen for impact. And impact always comes at a cost. There will be seasons where it feels like obedience is isolating you. Seasons where you cry out and ask God, "Why is this so hard?" And He will gently remind you that the resistance you're facing is not because you're off track, but because you're right where you need to be. The warfare is confirmation. The struggle is evidence. The conflict is part of the curriculum. You are not being punished. You are being proven. And through it all, you must remember that the one who chose you is faithful. He knew what you would face before He called you. He knew the betrayal, the slander, the sleepless nights. He knew the emotional weight, the financial tests, the spiritual warfare. And He still chose you because He also knew what He placed inside of you. He knew that His Spirit in you would be greater than the pressure around you. He knew that your roots would grow deeper in adversity. He knew that your character would be forged in the fire. So do not confuse conflict with failure. Do not interpret resistance as rejection from God. It may feel like you're surrounded by opposition, but you're actually surrounded by opportunity. Opportunity to grow, opportunity to lead, opportunity to rise. You were never chosen to be comfortable. You were chosen to change the world. And that change begins in the crucible of conflict. The plot against you confirms the power within you. You see, the enemy doesn't waste time, energy, or strategy on those who pose no threat. He doesn't go after the passive, the complacent, the ones walking aimlessly with no direction. He goes after the chosen, the anointed, the called, the ones who carry spiritual weight. If you've ever wondered why the warfare in your life seems unusually intense, why the pressure never seems to let up, why doors seem to close just as you're about to walk through them, it's because there's something inside of you that terrifies the forces of darkness. There is potential in you that is dangerous to the kingdom of hell. Attacks are not random, they are targeted, they are precise, and they are always strategic. When the enemy plots against you, it's a sign that you've already been identified as a threat. Even if you haven't yet fully stepped into the fullness of your purpose, the potential is there and it's visible. The enemy can smell destiny. He can sense divine movement. He can detect when someone has shifted from surviving to walking in kingdom dominion. That's when the plot intensifies. That's when opposition arises, not because you're weak, but because you're carrying something that can't be allowed to manifest without resistance. This is why the most gifted are often the most targeted. This is why the ones with the greatest calling walk through the deepest valleys. The greater the anointing, the greater the attack. Because what you carry can shift atmospheres, break generational cycles, release captives, and establish kingdom influence in territories that have been locked in darkness. The enemy knows that if you ever wake up to who you really are, if you ever shake off the lies, if you ever stop playing small, if you ever fully embrace the power within you, he won't be able to stop what God is about to do through you. So the plot is not proof of your weakness, it's proof of your power. It's not a sign you're losing. It's a sign that something is trying to stop what's already winning in the spirit. What they're plotting is based on fear. Not fear of you in your own strength, but fear of you in your God-given authority. Because when heaven backs you, hell takes notice. Let's be clear, the enemy cannot create, so all he can do is pervert, distort, distract, and delay. His plots are a reaction to a revelation he doesn't want you to walk in. He knows your history, but more dangerously, he has glimpses of your future. He sees the favor that keeps following you, even after failure. He sees the resilience you have, even after betrayal. He sees the strength you carry, even when you feel weak. And that's what scares him. Not your past mistakes, but your future alignment. Not your current limitations, but your imminent breakthrough. That's why the opposition feels personal. That's why the attacks are strategic. The enemy studies patterns. He knows your bloodline. He knows what tripped up your father. He knows what bound your mother. He knows the insecurities that run in your family. He knows the generational limitations that have kept others stuck. And he sees that you're about to break that cycle. So he plots. He schemes. He whispers. He sends confusion, division, temptation, exhaustion, anything to get you to second guess the power inside of you. But what he didn't calculate is your endurance. He didn't count on your discernment increasing. He didn't see that the pressure would push you deeper into purpose, that the attack would birth a greater anointing, that the betrayal would cause you to pray more fervently, that the delay would grow your discipline. What the enemy meant to destroy you is becoming the very thing that strengthens you. And here's the deeper truth. The plot is part of the process. It's not a detour. It's a divine classroom. You are being refined in the fire. You are being stretched, not to break, but to expand. You are learning to trust God in the dark so you can shine even brighter in the light. You're developing a prayer life, a level of authority and a spiritual maturity that doesn't come from comfort, but from contending. The reason you're still standing is not because the attack wasn't real, but because the power in you is greater than anything formed against you. You're not surviving on willpower. You're moving on divine power. You're not progressing because of applause. You're advancing because of alignment. Every time the enemy tried to throw you off, heaven used it to pull something greater out of you. Every setback has been sowing into your strength. Every loss has been planting seeds of wisdom. Every plot has become a platform So the next time the enemy plots, don't panic. Take it as confirmation that you are not ordinary, confirmation that you're walking with heaven's authority, confirmation that the power within you is not to be underestimated. Because when you carry God's purpose, you don't run from attacks. You recognize them for what they are. Signs that the enemy is already losing. Divine purpose always overrides human plans. No matter how calculated, how strategic, how well-resourced the opposition may be, when God has declared a thing over your life, no human agenda can override it. People may gather, conspire, whisper, and plan behind closed doors, but their efforts are no match for the blueprint of heaven. Before they ever thought to sabotage you, before they ever developed a plan to trap you, before one word of accusation was spoken, your purpose was already spoken into existence by the mouth of God. You must understand that divine purpose is not something that evolves over time based on human opinion. It's not flexible based on your environment. It doesn't adjust based on who approves or disapproves. It was set before time began. The eternal God, who exists outside of time, already authored your life's design. Your calling is not fragile. It's not up for debate. It cannot be cancelled by human hands because it was written by divine decree. And that decree is backed by all the authority of heaven. What they plot in darkness, God exposes in the light. People may try to maneuver against you in secret. They may smile in your face and scheme behind your back, but God sees it all. There is no meeting, no whisper, no email, no manipulation that escapes His notice. And the God who sees in secret will reveal in His time. He is not intimidated by human power, nor is He rushed by human agendas. He waits until the fullness of time to uncover what was meant to destroy you, and then He uses it as fuel to elevate you. Sometimes it feels like the enemy is winning. Sometimes the attacks feel relentless. Sometimes the lies seem louder than the truth. But divine purpose has a way of moving quietly through seasons of confusion, only to erupt with clarity when the time is right. God doesn't need to defend you when you're under fire. He will vindicate you when it's time to rise. He doesn't always explain the delays because purpose is never in a hurry. When you're walking in divine alignment, you don't panic over opposition. You learn to recognize that even their resistance is part of your refinement. Every human strategy against your purpose is reactionary. It's always responding to what God has already done. That's why it can't succeed. You're not living life hoping to stumble into purpose. You're walking out a plan that's been settled in eternity. That plan includes provision for every plot, wisdom for every obstacle, and strength for every season. People may try to sideline you. They may try to block your access, but they can't block your anointing. They may try to bury your name, but they can't bury your purpose. The truth is, many people are fighting against what they don't understand. Your life doesn't make sense to them because it's governed by a higher order. When doors open that you didn't knock on, when opportunities come that you didn't campaign for, when favor follows you in rooms where you don't have credentials, it confuses those who operate only in human logic. But what they call unfair, heaven calls ordained. What they call coincidence, heaven calls divine orchestration. God's strategy for your life includes not only where you're going, but every detour that will try to stop you. He already saw the betrayal. He already factored in the rejection. He already accounted for the loss. And still he said, go. Still he said, I have plans for you. Still he said, you will accomplish all that I've spoken over your life. This is why you can walk with boldness, not arrogance, but holy confidence, because you're not banking on your own plan. You're walking in His. Think about how many times it could have gone differently. How many moments the enemy tried to write a different ending for you. How many relationships, decisions, mistakes, and attacks were meant to derail you, and yet you're still here. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's purpose. Overriding everything else. God's hand has been sovereignly steering your life, even when you didn't see it, especially when you didn't understand it. And yes, the enemy is strategic. He studies patterns, watches timing, waits for vulnerability. But he is still under authority. He cannot act without permission. And even when he is allowed to move, he is unknowingly working in service to God's greater plan. What was meant to destroy you becomes what matures you. What was meant to distract you becomes what deepens you. That's the power of divine purpose. It doesn't avoid resistance, it transforms it. It doesn't skip the struggle, it redeems it. And it doesn't fear human opposition, it outlasts it. Because when God has spoken something over your life, no voice in this world has the authority to undo it. The strategy of God is always higher than the schemes of man. The wisdom of God always surpasses the manipulation of people. And the favor of God always outruns the plans of the enemy. So when they plot, don't panic. When they scheme, don't shrink. When they resist, don't retreat. You don't have to control everything when you're submitted to the one who controls it all. Human plans may be loud, but divine purpose is louder. What is written in heaven cannot be erased by earth. The ink God used to write your destiny was not temporary, it was eternal. And no matter what comes against it, it will stand. Your blessing is not a reaction, it's a preordained reality. You are not becoming blessed, you were already blessed before the foundation of the world. Before your name was ever spoken by man, it was declared in heaven. Before you ever made your first mistake, your destiny had already been secured. You were chosen, appointed, and blessed, not based on your performance, but based on divine intention. And that intention was established in eternity, not as an afterthought, not as a last-minute plan, but as a deliberate and strategic placement of favor over your life. Too often we live as though we are chasing something that's running from us. We pray, we fast, we strive, thinking that blessing is a reward for doing all the right things. But blessing isn't something you work to earn. It's something you were born carrying. It was woven into the fabric of your spiritual DNA. You don't fight for it, you walk in it. You don't earn it, you steward it. When you understand this truth, it shifts how you live. You stop trying to impress heaven and you start expressing what heaven already placed in you. You stop asking for what you already possess and you start declaring it into your environment. The blessing is not external, it is internal. It's not about stuff, status, or success in the eyes of men. It's about being marked by God. It's about having His hand on your life in ways that others can't explain. It's about walking into rooms where you don't meet all the qualifications, but doors open anyway. It's about surviving storms that should have taken you out, but instead strengthened you. is about operating in an authority that is not learned but inherited. Because when God blesses you, He blesses you from the inside out. He changes your posture, your perception, your expectation. This is why you can't afford to shrink to fit environments that don't understand your identity. When you carry the blessing, you will stand up, not because you're trying to, but because heaven has made you distinct. You don't carry common oil. You don't carry a generic calling. What's on you is different, and with that difference comes responsibility. The blessing is not for you to parade, it's for you to produce. You were blessed to be a blessing. You were empowered to shift atmospheres, to disrupt stagnation, to bring heaven into places where hell has had dominion for too long. And yes, the enemy will try to confuse you about your blessing. He'll try to get you to believe you have to strive for what's already yours. He'll use circumstances to make you question whether God's hand is still on your life. But He's not attacking your reality. He's attacking your revelation of that reality. Because if you ever truly realize what you carry, you'll stop begging for crumbs and start walking in dominion. You'll stop comparing yourself to others and start cultivating what's been uniquely entrusted to you. That's why you must live from your identity, not for your identity. You are not working toward being blessed. You're working from the position of already being blessed. You're not climbing a ladder trying to reach God's favor. You are already seated in heavenly places with Christ. That's your position. That's your posture. That's your reality. And no plot, no person, no problem can take that away from you. The blessing is irrevocable. The calling is without repentance. You don't lose it because of failure. You don't forfeit it because of delay. You don't undo it because of detours. What God has placed on your life is settled in eternity. It's this kind of revelation that sustains you in seasons where nothing around you looks like what's been spoken over you. It's what keeps you moving when it feels like life has hit pause. Because you know you're not chasing something uncertain. You're walking out something already finished. You're not hoping for favor. You're operating from it. You're not begging for doors. You're discerning which ones God already assigned for you to walk through. That's the power of a preordained blessing. It's not delayed by earthly resistance. It's not altered by human opinion. It's not adjusted by circumstances. It is a settled matter. This is why your presence provokes reactions. Not because of who you are in the flesh, but because of what you carry in the spirit. The blessing makes people uncomfortable who are unaware of their own. The blessing makes demons tremble who thought they still had territory in your life. The blessing shifts dynamics, interrupts cycles, and accelerates timelines. You are not average. You are not common. You are not expendable. You are evidence of a divine strategy that was put in motion before the foundations of the earth were laid. You were seen. You were known. You were blessed. And now you are simply walking it out in time, what God already decided in eternity. That's why no weapon formed against you can prosper, because the weapon was designed in time, but the blessing was released in eternity. That's why the opinions of people cannot define you, because their understanding is limited, but your calling is eternal. That's why no plot can prosper, because the plot is reactionary, but the blessing is foundational. So stop chasing what you already carry. Stop striving to earn what's already yours. Stop doubting what God has already decided. Walk with your head high, not in pride, but in clarity. Speak with authority, not from arrogance, but from alignment. Move with confidence, not because of what you've done, but because of who you've been called to be. The blessing is not pending, it's present. It's not circumstantial, it's spiritual. It's not borrowed, it's inherited. And once you carry that revelation, everything around you begins to shift to match what's already been spoken over you. Resistance trains you for rulership. It's not just something to endure, it's something designed to shape you. Every attempt to throw you off, every scheme to break your spirit, every opposition that rises against you is part of God's method to mature you, to build you, to prepare you for a weight you don't yet see. God never wastes adversity. He uses it as the soil in which your authority is cultivated. And the more intense the pressure, the more precise the purpose. Too many want the crown without the cross, the throne without the trials, the influence without the resistance. But rulership in the kingdom is not handed out like awards. It's forged through process. God doesn't elevate those who run from resistance. He elevates those who are trained by it. Because in the kingdom, it's not just about being gifted, it's about being grounded. Not just anointed, but appointed. Not just called, but conditioned. The platforms you're being prepared for require more than charisma. They require character. And resistance is God's tool for developing that character. You have to understand that when you are chosen for influence, you'll be enrolled in God's school of pressure. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Pressure purifies. It removes the excess, the ego, the entitlement. It exposes what's still immature and strengthens what's been underdeveloped. God will use conflict to stretch your capacity. He will allow opposition to sharpen your discernment. He will use rejection to teach you identity that isn't built on affirmation. What looks like delay is often divine discipline, the kind that produces leadership that can be trusted. God does not train kings and queens in comfort. He doesn't raise warriors in soft fields. He forges leaders in caves, in deserts, in silence, in obscurity. Before you ever rule, you must learn how to reign over your own soul. Before you lead people, you must learn how to follow God through seasons that don't make sense. Before you speak with authority, you must walk through moments where all you have is obedience. Resistance is the classroom where rulers are made. And make no mistake, every attack that comes against you is not just an inconvenience. It's an indication. It's revealing that there is a dimension of leadership, of dominion, of kingdom influence that your life is being shaped for. People don't throw stones at empty trees. The pressure proves that there's fruit. The warfare is a complement in the spirit. The enemy doesn't resist what isn't rising. And if the fire has been hotter lately, it's not because you're being forgotten. It's because you're being formed. There are levels of maturity, of wisdom, of spiritual authority that cannot be taught. They must be lived through. You don't learn endurance from a textbook. You learn it from tears, from losses, from standing when everything tells you to quit. You don't gain authority just by praying for it. You gain it by surviving the process that prayer sustains you through. You don't walk into rulership just because you're called. You walk into it because you were proven faithful when no one was watching. And resistance is the proving ground. Pressure creates capacity. It stretches you. It forces you to confront what's in you. It uncovers fears you didn't know were there and strengths you didn't know you carried. It teaches you how to speak truth when it's unpopular, how to stand firm when it's lonely, how to wait when it hurts, how to lead when it costs you. Rulership is not about domination, it's about service. And resistance is the school where you learn how to serve with integrity, how to carry influence without being carried away by it. The platform God is preparing you for is not a place of performance, it's a place of purpose. It's where your pain becomes your message, where your scars become a signpost for others, where your endurance speaks louder than your eloquence. And God will make sure that when you get there, you're not driven by ego but by obedience. Not fueled by applause, but by assignment. That's why He's allowing the resistance now to strip you of every dependency that could compromise your destiny later. You may feel like you're under attack, but you're actually under construction. Heaven is building something in you that can't be shaken. He's laying a foundation that will hold the weight of what's coming. If He promoted you prematurely, the pressure would crush you. So He trains you privately before He trusts you publicly. He hides you before He highlights you. And that hiding, that season of resistance, is not a setback, it's sacred preparation. The people who plot against you, the environments that reject you, the systems that try to silence you, they are unknowingly participating in your training. Because God will use even your enemies as your exercise equipment. He will use their opposition as your opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. What was meant to stop you is actually equipping you. What was meant to break you is building your spiritual muscle. So don't despise the resistance. Don't run from it, don't curse it. Recognize it for what it is, evidence that rulership is on the horizon. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. You're not being thrown off course, you're being aligned for something greater. Let the pressure do its work. Let the trials build your testimony. Let the warfare refine your worship. You're not just surviving. You're being shaped into a ruler, one battle at a time. You're not just protected, you're positioned. God never merely guards you from danger. He places you precisely where purpose unfolds. His protection is not passive, it is prophetic. He doesn't just shield you from harm. He strategically allows certain things to happen, not to destroy you, but to develop you. While you're worrying about survival, heaven is orchestrating your setup. The opposition is not random. It's not without purpose. It's not a detour. It's divine positioning. Every time someone tried to push you out, God was pulling you into destiny. Every time they closed the door, heaven was opening another that didn't require their permission. Every betrayal, every misunderstanding, every rejection, they weren't setbacks. They were setups. The enemy thought he was isolating you, but he was actually putting you in position. Because sometimes God has to separate you to elevate you. Sometimes He'll allow you to be left out so you can be lifted up. You see, when you're chosen, the battles you face aren't proof that God has abandoned you. They're confirmation that God is arranging something greater behind the scenes. What they meant to bury you, will become the very soil that grows your breakthrough. The same pit that was meant to swallow you becomes the place where your roots grow deep. You don't rise by avoiding dirt, you rise by growing through it. And growth doesn't happen on mountaintops, it happens in valleys, in tension, in resistance. Think of it like divine chess. While your enemies are making moves based on limited sight, God sees the entire board. He's not reacting, He's orchestrating. He places you in obscurity not to forget you, but to develop you. He allows the tension not to torment you, but to train you. And just when it looks like you're surrounded, He reveals that you're actually in perfect position for elevation. That's why you don't have to retaliate when people try to push you down. You don't have to vindicate yourself. You don't have to fight for your name. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. When you understand that God is not just protecting you, but positioning you, you begin to walk with a different kind of confidence. The kind that says, even if I don't understand this moment, I trust the one who's managing it. You stop panicking and start praising. You stop reacting and start discerning. Because you know this isn't just a problem, it's placement. Every time something didn't go your way, every time you were delayed, every time they overlooked you, God was silently aligning you with something greater. Protection isn't always a visible hand. Sometimes it's a closed door. Sometimes it's a denied opportunity. Sometimes it's a broken relationship. And while we cry over what we thought we lost, heaven rejoices over what we've been rescued from. God's positioning doesn't always look like promotion at first. Sometimes it looks like loss, but buried within that disappointment is direction. Buried within that heartbreak is a holy redirection. You must realize the blessing is not just in the outcome, it's in the placement. It's in where God allows you to be when everything else says you should have been somewhere else. And when the time is right, He reveals why He had you in that exact place at that exact time with those exact people, even if some of them are against you. He doesn't just put you in the right place. He uses the wrong people to get you there. They thought they were hurting you, but they were helping push you into destiny. They thought they were disqualifying you, but they were actually qualifying you for levels they'll never reach. That's why you can't let bitterness take root. Don't let offense rob you of vision. Don't allow what they did to distract you from what God is doing. When you're chosen, everything that happens to you is filtered through the hand of a sovereign God. And He wastes nothing. He uses every wound, every word, every weakness to position you. You are not a victim of your story. You are a vessel of divine intent. You're not stuck. You're stationed. You're not overlooked. You're in hiding for a reason. So when it feels like everything is working against you, remind yourself, this is not chaos. This is construction. This is not the end. This is alignment. You're not just being protected from what could hurt you. You're being positioned for what will reveal you, for what will launch you, for what will release what's been dormant inside of you. The place where they tried to break you will be the very place God raises you. The moment they said, you're finished, will be the moment heaven says, now you're ready. Your story is being written with intentional precision. Nothing is wasted. Not the pain, not the pressure, not the persecution. It's all a part of your positioning. You are being set on a stage that only God could build. One where your scars speak, your journey testifies, and your breakthrough becomes undeniable. So keep standing, keep trusting, keep moving forward, because you're not just covered, you're positioned. And when God gets ready to reveal what He's been preparing, no force in hell, no voice of accusation, and no act of sabotage will be able to stop what He has ordained. Let me leave you with this. You were never created to live reactive. You were designed to live from a place of revelation. And when you understand who you are, why you're here, and what you carry, you stop negotiating with fear and start navigating by purpose. Everything you've walked through, the pain, the betrayal, the resistance, the hidden seasons, has been divine strategy in disguise. You're not here by accident. You're not enduring by chance. You're positioned by providence. So rise with the mindset of a ruler. Speak with the authority of one who knows they were chosen. Move with the confidence of heaven's ambassador on earth. Stop asking for permission to be who you were born to be. Your blessing is not pending. It's been waiting on your agreement. Your enemies didn't disqualify you. They only helped unveil the necessity of your assignment. Step into the next season, not timidly but boldly, not looking for validation, but carrying confirmation. The world isn't waiting for another copy. It's groaning for your original purpose to emerge. You are not just protected, you are planted. Not just preserved, but prepared. Not just surviving, but sent. Now is the time to walk in your divine position, because no weapon, no system, no voice, and no circumstance can override what God has already established. It's already written, and you're just stepping into the chapter where the purpose, the pain, and the power finally collide. This is not just your moment, this is your mantle. Own it.